Hello everyone. Today we're going to touch a little bit on the subject of relationship between science and spirituality. The truth is that nowadays, at least in the Western world, there is already a lot of resources available to people who want to learn spirituality. There is teachers, there is schools, there is all kind of resources. There's actually a lot of value in it for a lot of people to learn spirituality, because many of those lessons actually they change lives. They bring people from the depths of their subconscious. They make people happy. So a big problem that I see in a lot of people is that their scientific understanding of the world kind of conflicts with learning spirituality. Many of these people have used science in the past. They don't have to be scientists, but they have learned science when they were little, and they saw how much you can create with science, how many actual tangible results you can get with science. And so they start thinking that that's the only thing out there. And so it becomes very hard for them to see messages from any other areas of knowledge. So what many times happens is that these people, they hear some spiritual teacher say something like, you should think or feel your soul as a ball of light in your chest, and you should send love to this ball of light, and you should feel everything in your life with the energy from this ball. They might hear something like that, and immediately, like they don't even understand the message that someone is trying to give to them. And immediately the scientific part of their mind throws all sorts of red flags. They just say, oh, it's like bullshit, it's like woo-woo, it's some just new agey stuff. This is just wishful thinking, this is just some weird things, this is stupid people that can believe in that, and so on. So today we'll talk a little bit about what science actually, even science itself, what it actually says about spirituality. And one of the main things to understand here is that the world that the science actually paints it's actually not the world where your experiences live. There are actually two different realms. So the world that the science actually paints is it's this very fixed mechanical world consisting of the certain specific particles that interact with each other in specific ways. It's this reality that is kind of based on these certain very hard rules which just govern everything, and there's just cause and effect, and there's no place for any spiritual events in this world. But let's see what that world actually even says about us humans. Basically, if you look at the best possible interpretation of the scientific interpretation of what a human is that it's a kind of a computer. Now, science, of course, has found many other parts of how body works, but the essence of your mind, what constitutes your experiences, what constitutes you as an active element in the world, you that is actually watching this video right now, you that is perceiving the messages in this video, for example, right now, that's a kind of informational system. The brain is a kind of biological computer that consists of neurons and connections and networks, and it's an informational system. It perceives information from the sight, from our senses. It transforms information somehow. It sees patterns. It tries to predict certain things. It's an informational structure. All the recent findings even in things like machine learning shows that this is approximately how mind works, because we have gone into the brain and we have taken out certain systems and we have tried to apply them to other tasks in silicon computers. And there are just so many similarities there that a scientific view is that a brain is a kind of a computer. What's interesting about this computer is that the informational structure that is actually you inside this computer, it doesn't even interact with the physical world directly, because the informational entity it cannot touch anything, it cannot see anything. It has to use the eyes, it has to use the programming of the eyes, it has to use the systems that it has. For example, if you talk to another person, there is no doubt in your subjective reality that you're actually connecting to them, that you can understand them, you can make them do certain things, you can understand what they want or understand a joke that they're saying, and you can understand why it's funny. So you obviously connecting, but there is no physical connection going on. If you take even an extreme case, like if you're talking, for example, through the internet, your physical bodies are many kilometers apart, but you're still connecting. So the things that are connecting to each other, they have to be made of information. They have to be an informational structure that connects to another informational structure, because no physical touch is happening there. It doesn't have to happen. So basically what happens in your mind is that it's a kind of video game. It's some kind of world that your mind creates and that you interact with, because you can't interact with the physical world. This analogy is very good because if you look at how video games actually work, there can be different kinds of games. There's, for example, games like you can take the flight simulator, which is a game which tries to emulate the physical reality exactly as it is. They try to emulate specific airplanes, they try to build them with specific characteristics as they are in the physical reality. They try to emulate laws of physics exactly as they are. They emulate airports, they emulate everything. They're trying to just make an exact model of what happens in a physical reality. But then there's also other games, like if you look at the popular GTA, for example, it's also kind of based on the physical reality. Many buildings and many things that you find in the game, they're actually taken from actual existing cities. They have gone and taken pictures of the houses, of the buildings. They have tried to put exact proportions of those buildings. So when you go around in this game, you can kind of see the real world a little bit, because it's the same buildings, it's the same streets, they work in the same way. But of course, there are still other things in that game that don't come from the physical world. There is, when you play it, you still have your own, you have to do your own little missions, you have to interact with the characters in that game in a certain way. You even interact with those buildings, not in the exact same way as they are in the physical reality. There's other components which are not taken from the physical cities, which are just created inside that game. Inside your own world, it's obviously based on something that's out there. You can be at home and touch the walls at your home, and you know there's a wall there. I think there's a wall in some kind of physical reality which exists, which has certain properties, and you have actually created that wall in your mind as well. But when you interact with the wall, first and foremost, you interact with the actual model in your mind. You interact with this virtual game that you play in your mind. You don't actually interact with the physical world directly. So now what's interesting with this is that this mini game that you have created in your mind, if this game has some kind of its own rules which don't directly come from the physical reality, you will not find those rules if you open the mind and try to see how neurons are talking to each other. You will not find them in chemistry, you will not find them in physics, because those rules, they exist inside the virtual game that you're playing. They don't exist in the physical reality. So if we take this example again, where a spiritual teacher tells you that you should feel a ball of light and you should do something with this ball of light, that is you, that is your soul, or that is just some energy thing inside you, they are not talking about the physical reality. They are talking about the reality inside your virtual game that you still have to play. Usually when scientific people, when they hear subjective world, they only think of it as sort of the wrong world, that there is the objective, the correct interpretation of reality, and then there's subjective, which is just someone's wrong interpretation, and which is like wrong in some way. But there is another essence here, and this essence is that the objective world has certain kinds of rules which you can study in a certain way. But the subjective world, while it might not be as correct about certain things, the point is that it has its own rules which govern it in a certain way, which are not even found in the physical world.